Hello YouTube modelers, welcome back to my channel. Thank all my viewers and subscribers for tuning in. So I just finished spray painting all the parts, the yellow, the blue. This one I decided to spray can. I still have a lot of Rust-Oleum paint left, but as far as a preference for spray cans, I think Rust-Oleum paint is much thicker, so it's better for touch-ups. But I like Krylon paint as far as spraying application because their paint seems to be thinner, so it has less orange peel. So I think for spraying, Krylon is better, but for touch-ups, Rust-Oleum is better because Rust-Oleum is so much thicker. But anyway, this is all Rust-Oleum. I used the new blue can, and unfortunately it sputtered out the first few seconds, so that's the result of that. I also sprayed the gloss coat rather quickly on this one, so some of the gloss coat kind of ran a little hot and reacted with the paint, but that's fine because this is a trainer, so a lot of students probably hit branches and went low on some trees. So for example, this is what a perfect job would look like with the gloss and everything. But sometimes you get this result, which I'm fine with because it did kind of rush it. I'll just weather it later with brown or black watered down craft paint. But here are the parts. I'll probably black wash it with the silver. I found the pilot from the P-38. He fits nicely in here, so that's going to be nice. And I'm going to fine detail it and start assembling it. Here is the rigging from AK. It's the correct scale and the correct thickness because they do sell them in different thickness. So they would be appropriate for whichever scale you're building, whether it's for airplane antennas or for naval or tall ships. They do make them in different thickness for different scales. So this is 148. And it's good for rigging and airplane antennas. So that's where I'm at now. Alright, so I just want to show you the framework inside one half of the fuselage. And here's the other half. The fire extinguisher. It looks like some kind of engine or firewall, so I'm gonna mate them together, but just want to show you that before I assembled it because you won't be able to see the detail once installed. Alright, so most of the plane is assembled. We're up to the engine, which to me is the focal point because it's exposed, has the most detail. Interior has some detail, but most of it is covered. So it's basically several discs and you sandwich them together. This is the back plate, the exhaust pipes, push rods for the valve, and the actual radial engine with the pistons. So I could have left it all silver, but if you guys are into detailing, and most of you probably already know this already, but even though it calls for silver or aluminum, what you want to do is just use the same pigment color but in different shades. So this is what color is this? Steel. So this is steel, Tamiya panel line. I left, I guess, what looks like fuel lines or something, chrome, but basically this is steel, tester steel with panel line accent. Left this in aluminum. This I painted in gray. The push rods I left in silver. So I also have some distributors for cars. Shouldn't be too bad. I think I'm going to use the red wires for the spark plugs because you can see the spark plugs here. Little stub for spark plugs. So I just want to show you that before I assemble it all together. Okay, I want to show you guys the radial engine is complete. Just want to show it to you before I install it onto the frame of the fuselage. In the back, I believe, is the electrical box. Front is the radial engine. I used the red distributors that you would use on a car for the radial engine, similar to like a motorcycle engine. Just make sure you put it at a 90-degree angle because you don't want it to interfere with the spinning prop. Spins freely, and you can't see the push rods and the exhaust because that's in the back. But they're there. Okay. Alright, so the Stearman is fully assembled, and I touched up the paint wherever it needed. So the pilot I'm going to stick at the end. I have some extra parts, an extra fire extinguisher, and an extra propeller blade because they give you the choice of either the wooden fixed pitched or the more advanced aluminum variable pitch prop. So I went for the variable pitch prop. So that's where we are now. So it's going to be decal time, and then after the decals I'll do the rigging because sometimes rigging either goes through or on top of the decals. Alright guys, so the decals are all laid down. I'm almost done, but it's off to the rigging. So here's the rigging guide, and although some spots do kind of have holes for you to use as a guide, like over here, notice a little, kind of has like a little, not an indentation, but a little these two little specks over here. That's where these would go. So it's what's interesting that they name the cables, and this is the actual length, so you can just compare it against here and cut it. But I want to do something different. I'm going to try to drill a hole and then thread the rigging through. Because the only time I ever did rigging was with an Aurora biplane. I think it was a Sopwith Camel, 1/48 scale or 1/32 scale. But that one, there was actually little pinholes to tell you where the rigging would go, and you had the choice of either gluing it on the surface or drilling a hole and threading it through. Threading it through is the best because it looks the most realistic, because wires do go through the fabric at times. So we'll proceed with the rigging. Alright, here we are at the final reveal. Based on comments from my last video, it seems like a lot of you out there have this kit because it was offered through Ollie's. So hopefully this video will be a good heads up on what to expect. So here is the finished kit. It is done in the US Army version. So Craig, here is my Army build for the US Armed Forces group build. The Army plane, which later became the Air Force in 47, I believe. So the kit is fairly small for comparison. Here is a 1/72 scale Skyhawk, and it's still longer in length than the 1/48 scale Stearman. But width-wise, the Stearman is still wider because the Skyhawk has swept back jet wings. So just to let you guys know, don't get fooled by the box. The plane is rather small, but that's what makes it fun and easy to build. All the parts fit perfectly. If anything, just be a little careful because some of the parts are small, and there was a few times when I thought I had lost some parts, but it's just that I overlooked it because they were so small. Where I did have difficulty was in the rigging. So for those of you who have never done rigging before or don't have the patience for rigging, just skip that portion. I just did it because I just felt it would have been incomplete, but as is, I already deleted some of the rigging from the back because I just got tired of doing the rigging. If possible, take a drill and drill holes where the rigging goes into the fuselage or into the wing. That way it makes a much more positive CA or crazy glue anchor point. And if possible, try to run the rigging continuous. So for example, this one goes through the rear rudder onto the other side. So the instructions tell you to do separately, but I like to drill holes and run it continuous. It's more realistic and a little bit more easier. It's easier. I weathered it slightly because the paint job was not the greatest. I did some of my last rigging on this fuselage over here. Last night I just slathered crazy glue on the side of the fuselage and threw the rigging on top of it, hoping it would stick, because that's how frustrated I got. But I think now I got the hang of it, because before it was just sticking to my toothpick, into my tweezer. I was getting frustrated, but I think now I got the hang of it. Just take the tweezer and hold it 1/8 or 1/4 inch from the end of the rigging, and then insert into the hole with some CA or crazy glue, and it should stick, not to your tweezer but to where you want it to. So that's what I did. Focal point, of course, is the radial engine. I use red car distributors. On the real Stearman, it's basically a metal tubing to protect it from the environment, but the red distributors make it look like red tubing, which looks great, I think. Of course, it spins realistically. And if you do stick a pilot, make sure that you stick the pilot in before putting on the fuselage top piece, because I had to shave the pilot's elbow in order to fit him in. But you can still see some of the detail that's in here, like the controller joystick, the throttle controls, and of course the red fire extinguisher. When you do the decals, I mean, it worked perfectly for me, but when you do these rare ones with the red stripe, make sure that you trim it very close to the decal colors, because you want it to adhere on the edge. You don't want it sticking out, because then it's just going to rip and tear and snag. This color scheme reminds me of the Cox control lines, if you guys used to fly them when you were younger with the .049 piston engines. I remember this was one of the color schemes they offered, was the blue and yellow Stearman. They also had, I think, the Apache helicopter, the German Stuka, the ME-109, the P-51 Mustang, P-40, Flying Tiger, the Corsair. They also had an Apache helicopter, and I think they had a racing plane too. But anyway, I never got a chance to get one of those Cox engines, those Cox control lines. But now it'll be kind of hard to fly, because back then they actually used to have an enclosed circular area for you to fly them in. But now, well, in the city anyway, they no longer exist. As far as the rigging goes, the one on the left is the AK. It's very thin. It's even thinner than floss. On the right is rigging that I got from a monogram USS Constitution. Although there's a lot of rigging on tall ships, I think it's a little bit easier because you can always tie knots on the mast. But on this one, it's pretty much straight gluing, because especially between the planes, it's hard to reach. And this cotton thread is like sewing thread. It doesn't stretch, but to me it just was easier to handle, and it didn't stretch out. This one, there is stretchability, and I think all rigging for scale models has some elasticity to it, because if you accidentally touch the rigging after it's glued, instead of pulling it out from the joints, it just stretches a little bit. And also, after you have one point attached, when you stretch it to attach the second anchor point, it won't pull the first one out, because there's that stretchability. But I had problems with the stretchability, because the crazy glue got stuck to the tweezer, and then when I was pulling it, I ended up stretching it, like overstretching it, and it just got longer than it was. So I find these cotton ones easier, but I think these are the correct ones, the ones with the slight elasticity. So that's it on the Stearman. As far as the pictures go of my dad, I did find 2 of the 4 that I know that exist. For those of you who know your military planes, you will recognize the planes in them immediately. He was a fighter pilot, so he flew the P-40 Tomahawk, the P-47 Thunderbolt, and the P-51 Mustang. And of course, with no surprise, his favorite was the P-51 Mustang. He said it fit like a glove, and those beautiful curvaceous lines of the Mustang. So that's it. So I'm gonna have stills at the end as usual. I hope that you guys enjoy this build, and hopefully will help you when you get to your build. So we'll do a 360 round of this. Do try to spend time detailing the radial engine, because to me that's the focal point. And that's about it. So thanks for watching. See you later.